So that's why you were fucking asking. Son of a bitch. Ah! Let the hydration. Oh god, everyone's here. Damn it. I was originally going to say, Scythera, does that make you thirsty? But, how's everyone doing tonight? Let the hydration flow. Thanks, virus. Ah! Everything's happening, and I haven't even finished putting things where I need to put things and things. How's everyone doing tonight? Time for more great Ace Attorney once I've finished posting in the various promo channels. Gonna be not going for as long tonight. We're gonna be ending at 11 because of the Genshin update. As well, I don't want to be streaming at all when the date changes over here in Eastern, so I just want to end an hour early just to make sure that doesn't happen. Because I want to support that protest as best I can. And because of that, I'll be real, we're probably not going to be raiding someone tonight unless there's someone I'm just like, okay, go over here, then probably get off Twitch. Do it. This one... and that one, that's all the places I post in promo channels. Yes, hydrate. It's very important. I'll be right back. I need to fucking stand up. Close the door. I'm Magnus McGills and I'm burnt to death. Well. Should probably turn on my fan while I'm at it too. Alrighty then. I've been stuck doing an Irish accent in personal cause for the past week and a half. Magnus McGilded haunts me forever. Let's get started with the game. When last we left off, we were cross-examining someone. I think it was the Beaties. Yeah, the Beats. Let's get right into it. This case has nothing to do with Mr. and Mrs. Garrideb. Believe me, a London Bobby is good for his word. You see, sir, the windows on the top floor of the Garrideb house are top-hinged casements. Obviously, if anything had been thrown out of the window, we would have seen it. I did leave the scene and go and fetch help, but my trusty Rolly was there to making sure nothing was disturbed. Spilled Mountain Dew. Oh no! Don't. You see, this is why I don't recommend having soda at the desk with your computer. With that said, I currently have a Cheerwine, so I'm not following my own advice. But Cheerwine is just built different. As is the Baja Blast. I didn't take my eye off the crime scene for one moment, sir. Nothing strange to report on that front, sir. Well, this is quite startling. Top-edged casement windows. That detail was not in the police report, Constable. Oh, yes, I'm sorry about that. I must have been a little drowsy. You cannot excuse your sins with drowsiness every time, Constable. No, sir! Sorry, but... what exactly is a top-hinged casement window? And you... you cannot excuse your ignorance with such trite remarks, my learned friend. Of course. Sorry. I've found it, Mr. Naruhodo. Cast your mind back to the windows of Mr. and Mrs. Garredub's room. I'll try. So the window opens in order to allow air to circulate inside the house. But as it's a top-hinged casement window, it swings open along the upper edge, you see? I'm glad you've rectified your ignorance. A casement window's most prominent feature is its stay, a metal bar which prevents the window from being opened beyond a certain amount. It prevents it opening? This is all news to me. Absolutely correct, sir. In other words, if a book or knife would have been thrown through the open window, it would have collided against the pane and fallen straight down to the pavement below. No. You see the problem, then. Good. Your education in Windows is complete. I like to imagine Ryunosuke opens his mouth and he just makes a Windows sound. There was never any possibility of either the book or the knife traveling 15 yards over the road. That is, unless the window pane had been shattered, something we've discounted already. That can't be! Did you see that, Raleigh? That young Japanese man just collapsed in agony. Yes, my darling, I saw it. I saw how he crumbled before me. Oh, Raleigh, you're so strong. I feel like this shouldn't be what he's thinking. He should be fucking talking into the desk like, how is this happening? I haven't even started the cross-examination yet, and I'm already my organs been destroyed. Counsel, if you could drag yourself upright again, the court awaits your cross-examination. My lord. Oh, good. Another desperate situation. Don't got enough of those already. Alrighty. Alright. Let me check something. When does the log start? Okay, so the log actually does go a little bit before. Because I'm actually having trouble remembering what I'm trying to prove here exactly. This is just him stating that you can believe him, not much there. This is a fact. There's nothing I'll probably get out of this. You would have seen it. Do we have a picture of that outright? I don't think we do. Hold it! Yes, you said that you went to a nearby police box to fetch another officer. Is that right? That's right, yes. If it had just only been on Rolly's beat, I would have known exactly where I was going, of course. Don't feel bad, my love. You can't be expected to know the location of every police box on every beat. So Rolly told me the way. Only, I sort of got a little lost on the way. Patricia, my darling, that's why I love you. Your terrible sense of direction's bewitching to me. You know, there's a lot of reasons to love someone. That's usually one you see, but I gotta admit it adds a certain character to a person. Oh, please. So I suppose I was gone for about 15 minutes. But like I said, my Rolly was at the scene the whole time, making sure nothing was disturbed. I was off duty at the time, of course, but a true Bobby's never really off duty, sir. Not even 1 second. Hold it! Nothing to report. That's correct, sir. I had my eyes wide open the entire time. Never looked away for a second.
No one else approached the scene, but nothing was removed from it. I can swear to that, the odds on us, sir.
Really? That seems a little strange.
Beg your pardon, sir. Strange, sir. Seems altogether regular to me.
This burned copy of the Lion's Pride was originally in the Gyaradev household. So the question remains, how did it find its way into the hand of the victim? Can you shed any light on that, seeing as you were at the scene of the crime at the entire time?
Aha! Could it be a different copy, sir? Well, they just happened to be burnt as well.
Even if that were possible, why would the victim have been gripping a book like that in her hand? As we can see from this photographic print, she had a bag over her shoulder.
Well, sir, that book was in the lady's hands the moment we arrived on the scene.
Is that so? There's something about this statement that's not sitting right with me. The two mysteries of how that knife ended up in her back and how that book ended up in her hand. There must be some common thread between them. I'm so sorry, Mr. Naruhodo. I had no right to speak out. What do you mean? I requested the cross-examination of Mrs. Gyaradev without consulting you. Even if the judge did deny me. Oh, I see. Well, I agree with you. We do need testimony from Mrs. Gyaradev, if we're ever going to get the truth of this matter. Do you really think so? Well, think about it. No matter how far it is across the road or how that window opens, Mr. Gyaradev's book found its way to the scene of the crime somehow, didn't it? You're right! And then there was Mr. Gyaradev's reaction to me showing her the knife. The woman's hiding something. I'm sure of it. You're right again! We need to use this cross-examination to uncover more clues. We'll get to the bottom of this one way or another, I swear. Yes.
Hold it!
But according to my notes here, the sun had gone down already and it was dark.
Oh, but Rolly and I were strolling along, gazing at the night sky and looking for our lucky star.
Sorry?
The star that'll guide us to eternal happiness.
Can it guide you to answer the question?
If a flaming bolt could come across the sky in front of us, I would have lighted up like a shooting star. And I'd seen a shooting star, I would have made a wish upon it. Let Rolly be an inspector, I would have said, 3 times at least. And of course, what with the smoke and everything, we couldn't actually see any stars.
In short, I'm trying to say that neither a book nor a knife crossed the sky before you.
Yes, sir. That's correct, sir. That shows the night sky in London is starless, sir.
Certainly seems like they're telling the truth.
And then we saw the poor woman fall to the ground, so we ran straight over to help her.
Is it one of these first two things?
Hold it!
By which you mean they don't open fully, is that correct?
Yes, sir. They're just there to allow a bit of air through the house, you see? So they're restricted by how much says they open.
And therefore anything thrown out of the window from inside the room would simply strike the pane and fall to the street directly below. For clarity, allow me to mark the map. Here is the location where the objects would have fallen. Yes. Directly opposite the scene of the crime, on the other side of the rather wide road. Would it have been so hard for somebody to mention this top hinged casement thing before? Yes. Well, I have another question for you, Constable.
Well, what would that be, sir?
How do you even know? Why would you have any idea what sort of windows Mr. and Mrs. Gyardeb's house is furnished with?
Ah, well, sir, that's very simple. You see, I helped with the investigation yesterday.
Got something to say about that?
Excuse me.
Do you have something to add, Mrs. Beat?
Huh? Sorry.
You look, well, delighted. Is there some particular reason for that?
Oh, I was just remembering. That's all. We really were so lucky.
Lucky? What do you mean?
Well, of course I feel terrible for the poor woman who was attacked. Don't misunderstand me, please. Well, you were just so lucky it didn't happen on Rolly's beat. He was so close, you see.
Oh, I hadn't realized.
Oh, yeah, that street, Briar Road. That's the boundary between Rolly's beat and the next one. Isn't that right, my love?
Constable Beat.
Oh, yes, that's right. That's the reason I was helping out with interviewing the occupants of the Garrett household yesterday. The house is on my beat, you see, sir.
That really was cutting it close then.
Constable, I wonder if you could clarify something. If the Garrett household's on your beat, does that mean the pavement next to it is as well? Oh, so Mr. Garrett's house? Yes, ma'am. The pavement on that side of the road is more part of the beat.
I see. I was unaware of that.
Just think, if the woman had been just attacked on the other side of Briar Road, we would never have been able to go for that meal to celebrate our wedding anniversary. But that's the life of a Bobby, after all.
Extraordinary people are Bobbies. Tirelessly working for the benefit of all Londoners. Bwah.
Do you know what I think? I think it was the good Lord's way of rewarding my Rolly for all his hard work. Congratulations! Here's a murder!
Oh, attempted.
Don't you think so, my darling? That must be a pet, my love. That must be it.
I think perhaps we should make sure that we have that information officially on record.
Leave it to me, Mr. Naruhodo. I'll take care of it immediately.
Then whose beats it on?
And now it's my turn, I think.
Hold it!
How can you say that for certain? Very good question, sir. And the answer is this. There's the noble founding principles of the force written on it, as a reminder to all of us policemen to our sworn duty. He showed us that before, didn't he?
Did he? I can't say I remember.
To patrol the streets of London town and hope out the peace of the common man. It's what the job's all about. And that's why I can stand here today besides my long-suffering wife and tell you Bobby's good for his word. While rubbing my tired eyes, admittedly. Sir! Oh, Rolly, you're so manly. Of course I am, my darling Patricia.
No, none of this is what I meant. I meant, how can you say for certain that this case has nothing to do with Mr. and Mrs. Garrett?
Oh, I see, sir. Should have said so earlier, sir.
Yes, well, so could you answer the question? That was a waste of time then.
Absolutely, sir. I'll answer to the fullest of my abilities, sir. There's a surprising reason why Mr. and Mrs. Garrett's domestic dispute can't be related to this case. Before I get into that, sir, just one thing.
Yeah?
I'd very much like you and your countrymen to understand the greatest British institution of Scotland Yard. So I hope you'll take back some tales of us London and Bobbies, and how we uphold our garden principles.
I wasn't planning on going back just yet. I've only just arrived here.
So to that end, sir, I'd be happy to lend you my walk card for your perusal. But I must warn you, you won't be able to get through without shedding a few tears.
Thank you. I'll try. Before we go into that, let's see what we got from this. So that's marked down now. Strive to preserve peace within their allotted beat. Expect to walk 20 miles around their beat every day for the furtherance of relations. Any crimes fall under the jurisdiction of the beat in which they're discovered. When a crime is discovered on his beat, a policeman must assist with this initial investigation to help detectives. Did we ever see the person whose beat it's on?
Can I ask you something, please, Mr. Lawyer, sir?
Oh, yes, of course. What is it?
You're doubting us, aren't you? I can tell.
What? I wasn't really, I mean, what's she doing?
Please, just because I'm a woman doesn't make it my testimony any less valuable. You might just see me as the wife of a policeman, but I'm a woman on my word I am.
I really don't remember ever suggesting that I doubted you.
No excuses, I don't want to hear it. My voice will be heard. My lord, you'll let me speak, won't you?
Yes, Mrs. Beat, I'll allow you to supplement your testimony if you so desire. Sometimes the path of least resistance is the sage one. That was a very loud mutter.
I heard that. That Japanese man thinks a policeman's wife's word counts for nothing, does he? Well, watch out, sir. I might just let you get away with something like that, but my Broly won't.
Duly noted, Mrs. Beat. Please, I humbly ask you to continue. What should he possibly about to say, I wonder? That's the new sentence, but it looks like we only had 5 things before. I know what I saw, my eyes never let me down. My sense of direction is a little off sometimes, though. Oh my, could that mean that they came from the other direction than they think they did? Could the body have been moved? Oh no.
Hold it!
Mrs. Beat, nobody's questioning what you've told us.
I saw it, I did that, even I saw it clearly. That little Eastern with the whiskers and the funny curved back slinking away from the scene.
Uh,
I know what I didn't see as well. I didn't see any flaming books or knives flying through the sky.
all very clear.
You also mentioned something about having a poor sense of direction? Oh, yeah, well, that's a little embarrassing, really. I'm always ending up at the wrong place when I've made arrangements to meet Raleigh. He gets ever so cross.
Comment on that? Constable Beat, is there a problem?
No, sir. No problem, sir.
Did your wife's remark just now bring something to mind, perhaps?
Oh, well, in a way, sir. Yes, sir. I was just remembering that the same thing happened that evening is all.
Hmm? You mean Mrs. Beat lost her way? Undeny the incident.
Well, you see, I sent her off to find a police box in the next meet over mine. But she was gone a fair bit longer than I was expecting. I thought she'd be back inside 10 minutes. But my darling was gone a good 15. Oh, Raleigh, you're such a good tease. But the reason I was so long was because of the bouquet, silly. The bouquet?
Sorry, what bouquet are you talking about?
Oh, it was a present for our wedding anniversary. Raleigh's so romantic. He saved up for it with farthings and halfpennies he found in the gutter while doing his rounds.
This is halfpenny, isn't it, technically? Yeah, how romantic.
I'd forgotten all about it until just now. Had you, my darling? Ah! Huh? Oh, yeah. But that was just between us. No talking about anyone else, darling. You have to promise. Really? Oh.
What was that all about? That was very out of character for him. So far. Constable Beat looked obviously troubled during that exchange. I'm afraid I can't offer anything useful here, Mr. Naruhodo. But I'm quite sure of one thing. We have to ask Mrs. Beat about the bouquet. Mrs. Beat, this bouquet you just mentioned. I'd like you to add details about it to your testimony, please.
Oh, really? Yes, I'd love to. What happened was I dropped my bouquet and ended up losing my way for a while.
Hold it! Anything specific? You mean you dropped the bouquet at the scene of the crime?
Yes, that's right. I was so upset. We ran over and saw it was a woman with a knife in her back. I was so shocked I dropped the bouquet Rolly gave me. It was in a dark spot where the streetlights weren't casting any light, so I didn't notice it first.
And then you went to the police box to report to the policeman whose beat it was on.
Yes, and I came back to the scene together with the constable, you see. That's when I spotted my bouquet again. But the funny thing was, when I went to pick it up, it was nowhere near the victim's body at all.
The body was moved. Oh, shit. In case you need reminding, Mrs. Beats, the victim is not deceased.
I was all flustered for a moment before I heard a voice calling me to the other side of the road.
Your husband, presumably?
That's right. Silly me, I'd gone over to the wrong side of the street. Although I'm gonna blame the bouquet this time. I can't think of how it got there. I really can't.
So the bouquet somehow moved from one side of Briar Road to the opposite? Curious indeed.
Isn't it? But the worst of it is I forgot to pick up the bouquet again when we left the scene. The beautiful rose Polly brought me with that change from the gutter he spent so long collecting.
By bouquet, do you perhaps mean this sorry, solitary rose?
Oh! No! Yes, that's it! That's the bouquet Broly brought me for our anniversary, with old bits of change he found in the gutter.
Maybe just call it a rose? Tell us, Lord Van Zeeks, where did you come by the flower? According to the report by the police officer in charge of the crime scene investigation, it was found on the edge of the pavement in front of the Garadeb household.
In front of the Garadeb's household?
Although it wasn't noticed until the morning, as it lay where the street lamps cast no lights. It was believed to be of no relevance to the case, since it was found on the opposite side of the thoroughfare.
Oh, thank you, sir, thank you. Can I have it back now, please?
No, I think for good measure, this rose should be added to the court record as evidence.
Oh. But it's a symbol of our love. I want it back after the trial, you hear me? I want it back.
Good grief! Rest assured, I shall do my very best not to forget, Mrs. Beats.
An English rose. It's such a beautiful flower. Ah, this is a rose, is it? Never seen one before. Do you not take an interest in flowers, Mr. Naruhodo?
I wouldn't say that exactly, but I do know 3 types at least.
Gosh, 3?
Yes, plum blossom, peach blossom, and cherry blossom.
Perhaps you should consider branching out, learning some that aren't fruit tree based, for example.
Is that all we got on this?
It's a very stylish paper the flower's wrapped in, isn't it?
Looks like a newspaper.
It's just an old newspaper, Mr. Naruhodo.
Oh, I suppose it's because I'm not used to seeing on a sprint. It looks so exotic to me. You're right! Nick did only know 2!
Is something wrong? Oh, no, I was just thinking that if you wrapped a stone-baked sweet potato in English newspaper, it might look like some sort of fancy cake.
Ah, Susato-san, you do love your cakes. You know, not for nothing, this is a really fucking well-constructed model of a flower. Oh my god. The body was moved.
Objection.
You claim, Constable B, that there was nothing to report in the 15 or so minutes you were guarding the scene. But that cannot be.
What do you mean to say?
In your testimony just now, Mrs. Beat, you explained to the court that when you arrived back on the scene of the crime with the policeman assigned to that beat, the bouquet you had dropped at the victim's side was no longer anywhere nearby.
Objection.
Yes, on the opposite side of Briar Road to where the victim was attacked. But considering the size of that meager bouquet, if a single sorry bloom can be so described, no doubt it was blown in the wind across the street, back into the gutter where it belongs.
Meager?
Objection.
But if that were the case, why did Constable Beat not testify to the fact?
No one else approached the scene and nothing was removed from it. Constable Beat swore to that on Scotland Yard's honor. But the bouquet belonged to me. It has nothing to do with the case. That's why Rolly didn't mention it, I'm sure.
No, because sadly, it's not only your bouquet we're talking about here. More than one thing in this case is mysteriously the wrong way around. What are you talking about? Think about it.
Besides Mrs. Beat's bouquet, there's Mr. Garrett's book. Mr. Garrett's copy of The Lion's Pride, which was thrown out of the window by his wife, would have struck the pane in the casement window and landed here, on the west side of the street. And yet, it was actually found here on the opposite side of the road in the victim's hand. Meanwhile, according to the testimony we've heard, Mrs. Beat's bouquet should have been dropped here at the scene of the crime, on the east side of the street. But in fact, it was actually found here on the opposite side of the road in front of Mr. and Mrs. Garrett's house. There's no logical explanation for those things, unless somebody deliberately moved them. What are you trying to say? The way you're talking sounds like you think my Rolly's done something wrong. Don't you listen to a word that scrawny lawyer says! Once we're going about books and bouquets, why should we care? It's nitpicking, that's what it is. Oh, good. Mrs. Garrett's come round. You might call it nitpicking, Mrs. Garrett, but deliberately meddling with the scene of a crime is a criminal offense. It's called, tampering, Mr. Naruhodo. But the person responsible for this tampering cannot admit to it for a very subtle but compelling reason.
Objection!
Tampering. You've barely heard the term before. Tell us, my learned friend, who would possibly have had cause to carry out such an elaborate deception? Yeah, there is someone who tampered with the scene of the crime that evening. All the evidence and all the testimony points to that one particular person. Counsel, I must demand that you substantiate this conjecture. Who are you saying is responsible for tampering with the scene of the crime? It would have to be Rolly. Because they were on the way to a restaurant that night, right? So if he had to fucking investigate the beat all on his own, he wouldn't have made the restaurant on their anniversary. Innocent motive, but still a crime, Rolly.
Take that!
Obviously, there's only one person it could have been. Constable Rolly Beat, it was you. What? A policeman? A member of Scotland Yard? What nonsense, why would my Rolly do something like that? There's no one straighter than my husband. Leave the jokes alone, Kyle. No Bobby works more tirelessly than the pretty people of London. Mrs. B, you said in your testimony that your husband asked you to go to a nearby police box to fetch the officer on duty. The 15 minutes that you were absent from the scene is the only opportunity anyone had to tamper with it. You're making it up. It's all nonsense. It's all lies. What about that Japanese man with the whiskers? I bet it was him. He did it. If that was true, Constable Beat would have seen him do it. Oh. And forgive me for pointing it out, but when you dropped your bouquet, Mrs. Beat, it was after the defendant had fled the scene. Well.
Objection!
First you make accusations about the landlord and his wife, and now you incriminate a policeman as well. But your accusations lack one very important thing. You claim the crime scene was tampered with. But there's only one reason anyone would commit such a reckless crime, to hide something. That's right, he's right! My husband and I just happened to be there, that's all. So why would he have anything to hide? Doesn't make sense. You offered no motive for this alleged tampering. And until you do, your accusations are nothing but empty threats. Constable Beat had a very good reason for wanting to tamper with the scene of the crime. That's the key to this whole affair. Yeah, these people really fucking hate mustaches for some reason. I don't quite get it. Mr. Naruhodo, have you managed to solve this mystery? Counsel, you have made a very serious accusation against a London police officer. If you are mistaken, I'm sure I need not point out that your reputation as a lawyer will be irrevocably damaged. With that stark warning in mind, you will now explain to the court the motive for this alleged tampering. Yes, my lord. Constable Beat's motive for tampering with the crime scene was to hide where the victim fell, because then it wouldn't be on his beat. Where the victim fell to the ground. That's what this Bobby had to cover up at all costs. What?
Where the victim fell? You mean where she was attacked? What are you talking about? We told you at the very start, didn't we? On the pavement of Briar Road, we saw it happen, remember? It was right here, as if anyone didn't already know.
That's certainly what everybody has been led to believe. But in fact, that isn't where the victim was stabbed at all.
What? What?
I'm beginning to wonder where this tumultuous trial will end, Counsel. If that's your assertion, then the court is dying to know, my Nipponese friend. Where are you proposing the victim actually took that place that evening? The crime actually took place that evening. On this road. But that's on the opposite side of the road?
I don't understand.
On the evening in question, Mr. Gyarados' book fell directly down from the open window above, and your bouquet, Mrs. Beat, never moved at all. What did move was the scene of the crime itself. Good gracious!
Objection!
Perhaps you haven't been listening to the ample testimony the court has heard. But these witnesses both saw the moment the attack took place.
That's right, I saw it with my own eyes.
It was 5 o'clock in the evening and already dark. There was the typical London fog on the ground. When you saw the incident unfold and ran to the victim's aid, that was actually on the west side of Briar Road.
No, that's not true. It can't have been.
Constable Beat then arranged for you to be absent for a while sending you for help. And during the 15 minutes you were away, he transplanted the crime scene. He moved all the things shown in this print, the victim herself, the 4 books. He moved everything, in fact, to the pavement on the east side of Briar Road. Extraordinary. But the constable overlooked one thing.
What? What did he overlook?
The bouquet, I presume. Exactly. The prosecution told the court just a few minutes ago about the discovery of the rose bouquet. Lord Van Zeek said it wasn't noticed until the morning as it lay where the street lamps cast no light. Yes, it couldn't be seen in the dark, obviously. Which is why it was only the bouquet that was found in its original position on the pavement on the west side of Briar Road. And that is the defense's theory about what really happened that evening. How do you respond? Constable Rolly Beat.
Well, I'm very sorry. I didn't mean to nod off again, but I haven't slept properly in a month. Did I miss anything important? Oh, Raleigh. It isn't true, is it? What the lawyer said is all lies, isn't it? I know it is because you're the most upstanding, righteous man I know. I had a dream, a terrible dream. Other things I did that night. Everything come out, everything exposed.
Huh?
Only it seems... it wasn't a dream at all.
Good golly! Order! What on earth is the meaning of all this?
Oh, Raleigh, why would you do something like this? Moving a corpse it's a criminal offense, isn't it?
Wishing the victim dead should be one too. Constable, explain yourself. Why would you do this? As a respected member of Scotland Yard, your duty is to protect the good people of London Town.
I can't say, sir.
What?
I really am so sorry about all this. For damaging the Yard's reputation, for everything.
I have a possible explanation. For why, on that particular evening, Constable Beat felt compelled to move the scene of the crime. I can think of one reason. What? How could you possibly know? You, a foreigner, presuming to understand the mind of a Scotland Yard policeman. And yet, Lord Van Zeeks, it is this foreigner who has uncovered the startling truth of the matter thus far. I would believe it would be beneficial for the court to hear this extraordinary young lawyer's theory. Counsel for the defense, if you please. Yes, my lord. Now then, I think you had better show us some evidence. At once, my lord. England, Japan, it makes no difference where you come from. Human emotions are the same. I think I have a fairly good idea of the feelings behind this man's actions. What gives away the motive for Constable Beat's unthinkable actions? The warrant card.
Take that!
I realize that I'm a foreigner in this land, and I've only just arrived from Japan. Which is why all this information about London's so-called bobbies is completely new to me. I've learned that, though honorable, patrolling the beat's the most demanding work in the world, for example. Keeping the peace, looking after the citizens on his beat in all kinds of ways. There's no doubt that the young Bobby is charged with a great deal to do each day, certainly. But for Constable Beat, the day in question was special. Special? How? On account of this bouquet, my lord.
Oh, yes, it was our very first wedding anniversary.
Constable Beat had worked so hard to be able to afford this simple gift for his wife, and was so looking forward to taking her out for a celebratory meal, when he and Mrs. Beat stumbled upon a crime along Briar Road. When he saw that shadowy figure through the fog collapse on the pavement ahead of them, what must have gone through the man's mind? This is the warrant card that Constable Beat offered to lend me earlier. Inside, among the rules for patrolling policemen, it says, when a crime is discovered on his beat, a policeman must assist with initial investigations and help detectives. Aha! Constable Beat, is that, or is that not the reason why you moved the whole scene of the crime that day?
Yes. Everything you said, it's all right.
So that's it. It was all to do with the boundary of your beat.
Oh.
Exactly. To summarize, the incident actually occurred on Constable Beat's beat. Good gracious! Constable, do you realize the gravity of what you've done?
It was the first time since I become a copper that ever cursed God. Stay close to me, Pat. The criminal could still be lurking somewhere. As we ran over to the scene, I had every intention of doing my duty as a police officer. We've got to report this to the station as quickly as possible. But then it dawned on me. I realized where we were, where the victim was lying, and what that meant for me. When a crime is discovered on his beat, a policeman must assist with initial investigations and help detectives. Why here? Why did this have to happen here? And why tonight of all nights? Why? It's a copper's job to guard the scene of a crime, so I told Pat she had to go to the nearest police box and fetch whoever was on duty there. It was then, when I opened my mouth to speak, it just came out. I couldn't believe the words that were coming out of my own mouth. This is the next beat to mine, Pat. So you have to go to the police box that covers it, turn right along Mearscombe Street, and then... Damn. That's just unfortunate. I'm sorry. I'm so sorry. Oh, Constable. I just wanted, just that one night, to take Patricia out for dinner. Oh, Raleigh. Just that one night. You knew that if the incident was on your beat, your evening of celebration would be ruined. And so you decided to move the entire crime scene outside your jurisdiction. Just across the street to the east pavement of Briar Road, which falls under the neighboring beat's care. You see, I thought... Well, I was sure the victim was dead, you see. I beg your pardon. Oh, well, of course he did. Otherwise, my Rolly would never have left the poor woman on the freezing cold pavement. Ah, I see your meaning now. But God got me back from my sins, didn't he?
Okay, very minor detail. They capitalized the he for God. I don't really care about that detail myself. Like what if I remember writing sentences out, you'll never see me do that because I'm not a very religious person at all, really. But I appreciate them paying attention to that. It's kind of like how in Silent Hill 3, there's only one time that God is lowercased, and it's in the post-game wrap-up results that kind of tells you how well you did throughout the game and gives you a score. And that's meant to be like a mark of disrespect, especially in that instance.
That's why I missed the rose I brought for Pet. Oh, no, Rolly, that was all my fault. I should never have dropped it in a dark place. I'm so sorry, Rolly.
And can you tell us, Constable, how many books did you move from the one side of the road to the other in the total?
Huh? Oh, 4 it was. Yes, sir. Definitely 4. 3 of them dropped by Mr. Natsume, and the 4th being the one that fell from the window upstairs in the Gyaradev household, of course.
But what made you place that book in the victim's hand? When all the others were scattered haphazardly around, I mean.
Oh, well, sir, that's because that's how I found it.
How you found it? What do you mean?
When we first ran up to the scene, the victim was already holding the book. So, when I moved everything, I made sure it was still in her hand.
You're sure it was this book, The Lion's Pride, that the victim was holding?
Oh, yes, sir. No doubt about it, sir.
Interesting.
I thought it was an open and shut case at the time, you see. There were only 2 people at the scene, but Pat and me both saw what happened. However, which way you looked at it, it had to be the one fellow who ran off and done it. I thought... I couldn't see the harm, really. I didn't think moving it all over the road would make a jot of difference. I suppose this is for me now. I've had it.
My lord. Yes, Lord Van Zieks. I believe that concludes the cross-examination of the witnesses. Constable, you may withdraw.
Yes, sir! Mr. Prosecutor, sir, what'll become of my Rolly? What'll happen to him?
For now, you are free to go home. The police will contact you in due course.
Please don't punish my husband. This was all my fault. It's because I'm always moaning for him to come home late. Leave it now, Pete. Let's go home. I'm tired. All right then, my love.
One last thing, Constable.
Sir?
Let this be a lesson to you. In a criminal investigation, every detail matters, however insignificant it may seem to you.
Yes, sir.
Carve that lesson in your mind. And never again make a mistake of tampering with the scene of a crime.
Never again, sir. You mean to say...
Leave, now. This trial is not yet over.
Sir!
Van Zieks being a bro. Well, quite a startling revelation, I must say. I never thought of a third party transplanting the entire scene of the crime like that. Indeed, my lord. Nevertheless, there are some immutable facts here. Principally, that the accused, Mr. Sosuke Natsume, is the only person who could have possibly committed this crime.
Objection.
No, I disagree. Now that we know the true scene of the incident, there is someone else. Another person who could be responsible for the knife in the victim's back. Forgive me for being presumptuous, but I believe the prosecution's already probably very well this possibility. Lord Van Zieks, is this true? Very well. Name the person if you will, and if further investigation is warranted. The prosecution has no objection to the trial continuing. You will name this other person who could have been perpetrated the crime. It would have been accidental, but Joan Gyaradev.
Take that!
The defense would once again like to request the cross-examination of a new witness, my lord. Once again? My assistant made the same request earlier.
in order to finally reveal the truth about this case. It's imperative we cross-examine juror number 4, Mrs. Joan Garadeb.
Me? Me? How dare me?
Objection!
That request has already been denied.
Objection!
But the situation's very different now. Mrs. Garadeb, answer me this.
What do you want now, you little toad?
At the time of the incident, you were engaged in a violent argument with your husband, Mr. John Garadeb. In the course of the argument... I have a ping. In the course of the argument, a minor house fire was ignited. And to clear the smoke from the room, your husband opened a window that looks out over Briar Road.
Well, what of it?
You threw this book at your husband when he was cornered with his back against the window. Upon striking the pane of the top hinged casement window, the book plummeted directly down, finding its way to what we now know to be the true scene of the incident.
Yes, and as I said, what of it?
During the argument, you were beside yourself with rage. As such, you threw not just books, but anything you could lay your hands on. So, let me ask you one more time, Mrs. Garadeb. This knife, the one removed from the victim's back, have you really never laid eyes on it before?
Ah! I don't recall it. Seriously? Am I supposed to remember everything I picked up and threw at my husband? And anyway, the man over there in all that regalia said members of the jury needn't testify, didn't he?
Conveniently, yes.
Objection!
No, I have no recollection of saying that at all. Juror number 4.
Oh!
Make no mistake. Your jurors are not special in any way. You are not immune to the judicial process. If you know something about this knife, madam, let the truth come out.
But that's just a common garden knife. It could have come from anywhere. We have something like that at home. If one went missing, how would you expect me to know?
What's that?
Are you joking?
What are you saying, please, Mrs. Garadeb? Hey, Bolt, welcome.
No, you listen to me. I refuse to believe all this nonsense. I couldn't bear the thought that I'd injured someone. Do you hear? I couldn't bear it.
Oh, the poor woman.
So, yes, I want evidence. I want to see hard evidence if you're going to insist on this being my fault. You're going to have to prove it to me that I threw that knife with it, if that's what you think. Come along now. Chop, chop. Do your worst.
Well, Mr. Naruhodo? If I had evidence like that, believe me, I would have thrown it at her already. Then take the stand, juror.
Oh!
The prosecution does not object to the defense's request to cross-examine this woman. Thank you, Lord Van Zeeks.
I'm going to have to testify?
Juror number 4. As I'm sure you will appreciate, having observed it with your own eyes today, witness testimony can lead to the most extraordinary truths being unearthed. Truths of which the witnesses themselves may not even have been aware.
Oh, dearie me.
So I demand your full and unadulterated testimony, Mrs. Garadeb. And mark my words, in this court of law today, we shall extract the truth.
Fucking right. I couldn't bear to hurt a person unless it's my husband, in which case I hurt him daily.
Do you concur, counsels? Certainly, my lord.
Oh,
That's what I'm hoping for, my lord. This is such a strange feeling. For the first time since arriving in this country, it actually feels real. I'm here in the Old Bailey, and I'm a lawyer. Witness, state your name and occupation.
Oh, yes, my name is Joan Garadeb. And I'm, I'm a juror and such like.
It sounds like she doesn't even know if she's a housewife or a maid or what anymore.
The court has decided your testimony is required in order to clarify matters in this case. Do you understand, madam?
Yes, my lord.
You will tell the court everything that took place in your household on the evening in question. And I warn you, do not attempt to hide the truth.
Oh, dearie me.
John? Chin up, Joni. Nothing to worry about now.
Oh, I didn't know you were here, John.
It wasn't only you in the room that day, old thing, was it? Rather think I ought to testify as well, don't you?
Is this entire case about husbands and wives?
Huh.
But what about your lady?
Don't you worry about that. Hardly notice it. I'm not the sort of chap to leave a comrade to face disciplinary action alone.
Oh, John.
I presume you're Mr. John Garrideb. Yes, sir. Former Lieutenant, Second Lieutenant of the 3rd Regiment of the 4th Northumberland Fusiliers, sir. Seen my fair share of action and now living a quiet life, as it were. The quiet life? Were you not engaged in an incendiary battle with your spouse on the day in question? Well, yes. Quite. I believe this may represent a first in the proud history of the British courts. Calling a juror to the witness stand is unprecedented. However, the court will hear your testimony now, juror number 4. And that of your husband. You will recount clearly and concisely the events in your home at the time of the incident in question. Sir, at once. The Battle of Garrideb? Yes, on the day you're referring to, the wife and I did have a bit of a skirmish. Can't recall the reason now. Knocked a candlestick over and set fire to the carpet. Soon had it out though and got the window open.
Meanwhile, I was picking up whatever I could find to throw at him.
Plenty of knives around our place. Can't say I'd noticed if 1 or 2 knives went missing, I'm afraid. If that bally thing in the victim's back was really one of ours, you'd have a job proving it, I think. It sounds as though it was quite the battlefield in your household that evening. Although an entirely one-sided assault, it seems. The enemy caught us on the hop, sir. I had no choice but to dig in and take defensive measures. To be honest, if the enemy had kept shelling us for another minute, we'd have been toast. Of course, a veteran such as myself is only too aware that on every battlefield, you're just a gnat's whisker from death at any moment.
Are we still talking about a marital quarrel here?
Well, I must say I'm dubious that this testimony will shed any light on the origins of this jackknife. In combat, one's focus narrows such that the surroundings are barely noticed. These witnesses may not be able to offer anything more than they have testified already. This may be a dead end.
Van Zeeks may well be right. Well, whatever the chances, we only have this last cross-examination to uncover the truth, Mr. Naruhodo. Yeah, I'm afraid so.
Very well, counsel. Begin your cross-examination.
Alright. We already have this proved, so nothing we can probably get out of that. We know about the fire, so there's nothing we can really get out of this. Whatever you can throw is probably a key thing there. Because now they're trying to divert from the knife being theirs.
Hold it!
Even though the room was on fire?
As far as I was concerned at the time, it was more important to extinguish my anger than the flames. When a woman wants to throw, she must throw.
That is most certainly not true of a Susato takedown, Mr. Naruhodo. How did she know I was thinking that? I'm scared. You're thinking into my head. Get out. So, please cast your mind back and try to remember. Was a knife among the items you threw at your husband that day?
In all honesty, I don't recall. But I feel I must point out that I'm no monster. Let me see, some braid, a cabbage, garlic, a towel, a sponge, a napkin.
Jupiter.
Is she missing something?
Excuse me.
Do you have something to add, sir? Mr. Garadeb. Don't shoot. Sorry, I beg your pardon. Did your wife's remark just now bring something to mind? Nothing of any significance, no. Just that barrage of projectiles the old thing launched in my direction. Was somewhat more solid than she implies. Books, bricks, and the fire poker I've seen to recall. Ouch. And the woman's aim is uncanny. She landed a direct hit with every bally. Ow! Good grief, woman. We're not at home now.
This is a court of law. Oh, dearie me. I'm so sorry, dear.
What's she even doing with a teapot in here?
Honestly, John, I would never have thrown such things at you, obviously.
Well, take a look at this then. How do you suppose this happened? Your pipe, sir? I had this thing in my hand as usual at the time of the onslaught. Knocked her clean out with one of her soft projectiles, she did. Yes. And when I went to pick up the thing up, it was broken in two. I like to see a sponge do that sort of damage. I see, your pipe was broken. It would never have been sent flowing unless it was hit by something pretty solid. Anyway, I managed to bandage the thing up for now.
Ah, you're wanting to exaggerate, aren't you, dear?
What do we should make of this account? That could be very important. The defense believes Mr. Garadeb's remarks just now to be of great significance.
Objection.
This war veteran's words only tell us one thing. Betray a fiery wife, and pipes, as well as hearts, may be broken. Sentimental wisdom, perhaps, but hardly worthy of adding to the formal testimony. Indeed, common sense, one might say. Might one? In that case, could you at least permit us to examine the pipe, sir? Well, I don't see why not.
How dearie me, there you go again, trying to ingratiate yourself with a young lady.
Very well. The court will accept the gentleman's pipe as evidence. I hope I didn't speak out of turn, Mr. Naruhodo. Well, let's find out if you did or not. Close that soda off well, because I don't want to spill it. It looks to be in a sorry state with that bandage around it, doesn't it? But for some reason, it feels slightly ominous to me. It's like it's trying to shout out warning. Probably because it's the same blue as Mr. Garadeb's dressing gown. I suppose it must have been considerably sentimental value. It must have considerable sentimental value to Mr. Garadeb, given that he's gone to the trouble of repairing it like this. Either that, or he can't afford to replace it. Maybe both. There's a small nick out of the bowl here. Look, it appears to have been made recently. And see how there are little scrapes and dents all over it? It's clearly a well-loved pipe. Yeah, you're right. It seems to me recently that being well-loved goes hand in hand with getting some battle scars. This particular nick is catching my eye, though, because it's clearly new. How have you not noticed that? Oh, something just twinkled inside the chamber of the pipe there. Yeah, I saw it. Something's stuck in there, I think. Let's turn it over and give it a shake. What's this? It's a tiny fragment of metal. It looks like the tip of a blade or something. The tip of a blade? Surely, it couldn't be. This is the tiny piece of metal we found in the chamber of Mr. Garadeb's pipe. It looks like the tip of a blade or something. The tip of a blade? Is something wrong, Mr. Naruhodo? I don't really know. There's just something nagging at me, but I can't put my finger on it. Perhaps in that case, it would be wise to examine some of the other pieces of evidence again? Like the murder weapon. I thought maybe this thing got thrown into some sort of armor initially. Like it was a setup. No, this was just a fucking marital argument. Oh, look here, Mr. Naruhodo, just at the tip. A small piece of the blade appears to be missing. Wait, part of it's missing? I could be wrong, but I've just got a feeling. Remember this? That's the tiny fragment of metal we found inside Mr. Gerdub's pipe. Yeah, and just maybe. Oh my, it's a perfect fit. Somehow I just knew it. I was just feeling rather disappointed for you that your request was turned down. Oh, no, it's fine. Thanks to Susato-san, we have some new evidence to work with. Please should examine it carefully. Well, thank you for that, rebuttal, Mr. Geradeb. Now, if you could return to the crux of the matter. What can you tell the court about the knife used to attack the victim? Yeah, about that, I just fucking proved it.
Objection.
Mr. Geradeb, can I ask you to take a good look at this, please? You can ask, but I can't see a bally thing. You can't? You used to call me Dead-Eye Deb for back in the Dead Regiment, of course. Well, that was some time ago now. Even when I'm trying to enjoy a large print book by the fire these days. I struggle to tell a B from a D and a P from a Q, to be honest.
Oh, he does. Dearie me, it's rather weary being asked about every other thing and every other word.
You must be very dizzy. What is that? A tiny scrap of metal? Yes, almost certainly from the tip of a blade. And what may appear at first to be just a tiny scrap is in fact a crucial piece of evidence. Interesting. And where did the defense come by this evidence? It was lodged in the chamber of Mr. Geradub's pipe. My pipe, you say? By Jove, I wonder how that got there. And what precisely does this fragment of metal signify, Counsel? Are you suggesting that it is in some way related to the matter of the stabbing on Briar Road? I am. What? When put together with another piece of evidence, already in the court record, I believe this tiny fragment of metal will unravel the whole truth of this case, my lord. You appear rather confident in that extraordinary statement, Counsel. Very well then, present the pertinent evidence to the court. What evidence, when paired with this fragment of metal, allegedly reveals the truth of this entire case?
Take that!
This is the knife that was found in the victim's back. If you look closely, you'll see that there's a small piece of the tip of the blade that's missing. A common issue with the inferior blade sold at unsavory street markets. Criminals who use them regularly leave the tips lodged in the victim's bones. And what of this particular knife? No doubt its tip has suffered a similar fate, now that languishing somewhere near the spine of a victim.
Objection!
No, that's not the case. The tip of this particular knife's blade is the very fragment of metal we discovered in the chamber of Mr. Geradub's pipe.
Oh!
Ugh! Good grief, Lord Van Zeeks! I don't believe it. The knife from the crime scene and this fragment of metal are a perfect match. Good golly gosh! Order, order, order! Is this some sort of Eastern sorcery? This is no magic, my lord. This is a miracle. A miracle? So Van Zeeks has figured it out, has he? Counsel, explain this extraordinary coincidence at once. Yes, my lord. The crucial point we have to ask ourselves here is when did the fragment of metal find its way inside Mr. Geradub's pipe? Something that was clarified for us in the most recent witness testimony. Oh, dearie me. During the argument between these two that occurred just as the victim was on the pavement below, Mrs. Geradub flung this knife at her husband. However, the knife missed Mr. Geradub instead striking the pipe in his hand at the time. Which caused the tip to break off, of course. Good lord! Yes, and that is when the tiny tip of the blade found its way inside Mr. Geradub's pipe. The chances of that are 1,000,000 to 1. And yet, there's no other credible explanation for how the tip of the blade ended up in your pipe. Then, after losing its tip, the knife ricocheted off the pipe and flew out of the open window. In short, this knife which fell from the window of the Gerdup's house is the very same knife that struck the victim in the middle of the back on the street below.
Oh gosh, oh dear, oh! No!
I just realized she's on a box.
Objection.
A full-bodied theory, I'll give you that. Yeah. A complex bouquet of seemingly trivial points, plausibly arranged to create an almost impassable vintage. Allow me to toast my learned friend's characteristically Nipponese approach to bottling his argument. Sorry? But after all, it is just a theory. A game theory. Apparently people want him to be the next host of fucking Jeopardy, by the way. No. The bottle, I fear, is corked. Because you see... Leg. It's spoilt by the insurmountable inconsistency. An insurmountable what? Lord Van Zeeks, explain yourself. What is this inconsistency you claim to have identified? An inconsistency of the simplest nature, my lord. The victim was found with the knife planted in the middle of her back. Yes, in her... Oh, fuck.
That's right, you silly little man!
Now, Donald thing, what are you getting so excited about? Let us consider the basic facts of the case once more. The victim was walking along the pavement before being stabbed in the back and falling to the ground. Then, if that knife had struck her and had fallen from above, there's no possible way it could have planted itself in the victim's back. Yeah, stop hurting John. I just realized the back of John is, like, burnt. Order, order!
Quite right, you see, quite, that's exactly right. If the knife had fallen on her from above, I would have struck her on the top of her head.
Well, he's lost for words. Look.
I knew it. I never liked this theory in the first place.
I don't know, though. What really did happen? It would appear the defense has made a rather spectacular blunder. If a theory has even one inconsistency, it cannot stand. Your theory, my learned friend, is history. We were so close. I could see the truth. I was so sure we were on the right track. But now that the way's been blocked completely just by one simple inconsistency. Or in other words, we simply need to eliminate that one inconsistency and the theory will stand. Miss Susato? You mustn't worry, Mr. Naruhodo. You were just caught off guard, that's all. And your mind went blank. But if the path you were on is indeed correct, then a way will present itself. The key to this is in the court record, I'm sure. All the information you need is there. It seems you have nothing to say, my Nipponese friend. Well, your silence speaks volumes. A tacit acceptance that your theory is fatally flawed.
Objection.
This inconsistency doesn't mean I was on the wrong track. It means that I need to sharpen my mind and dig deeper for the truth. It's a test. Yes. If the knife fell on the victim from above, there's no way that it could have hit her in the middle of her back. Under normal circumstances, that is. What are you implying? Counsel? There is a piece of evidence in the court record that can explain this inconsistency. That can explain how the knife that fell from above could have pierced the victim's back. We already have the answer.
Goodness!
Utter madness. Surely this must be the last time. Counsel, present the evidence of which you speak. This is the last inconsistency, the final piece of the puzzle. If I can successfully make sense of this, this truth will be laid bare at last. The evidence that explains how the falling knife became lodged in the victim's back is... Okay, so it's either the fourth book or the crime scene photograph. Because the book was in her hand. We have that from Rolly's testimony. So she picked it up herself. If you're picking something up, you're bent over. So when she was picking it up, it fell on her back and stabbed her near her fucking spine. The question is, which of these do I fucking present? I'm gonna say it's the book directly because it's more direct, but it could very well be the photograph.
Take that!
This, the fourth book found at the scene, is the final piece of evidence the defense will present. The burnt book? Is that not Mr. Garadeb's book? Yes, and to understand its significance, we have to consider how it came to be at the scene in the first place. This photographic print clearly shows the book in question, and the victim holding it in her hand. But as we all now know, it was the police constable that put the book between her fingers like that. Quite so, as a part of his wholesale transplanting of the crime scene to the opposite side of the road. That's true. However, as part of his testimony, Constable Beat made an extremely enlightening statement on that point. It was already there. In other words, the victim had already picked up the book of her own volition. And clearly that must have been before she suffered the knife wound. Well, I should say so. After being attacked with a knife, I don't imagine she'd have been doing much of anything. So the question becomes, why did the victim have that book in her hand? By Jingo. I think I'm beginning to see what may have happened now.
Oh, dearie me!
We know that the book fell from the top floor of the Garadeb household onto the pavement below, at precisely the moment that the victim was walking past. Yes, at exactly that moment. The young woman was walking along the street in the light fog, when all of a sudden, a book fell right in front of her.
The book I threw?
Yes, Mrs. Garadeb, and what do you think the woman did? What would you do if you were walking along and suddenly a book landed in front of you on the pavement?
Well, I really can't imagine it, but I suppose she might have reached down and picked out the book up.
Yes, that is exactly what the woman in fact did. She picked up the book.
Oh, heavens!
And when the woman reached down to pick the fallen book up, what position would her back have been in? That's right, facing the sky completely and utterly defenseless. Kaito presenting the alternative super gory aspect where she instead gets knifed in the forehead. God damn, that would be fucked up. Now that I think about it, we really haven't had many head injuries as the causes of death, have we? Then, in the very next moment, while the woman was still bent over picking up the book, the next object fell from the room above, the jackknife, straight into the middle of her back. Make sure you always take a step back first, though. Mia was killed in the head. And that's it for the first game. I think. I don't recall the Rise from Ashes case's victim being killed with a head wound. Neither of them, for that matter. Justice for All, no. Justice for All Case 2, no. Turnabout Big Top technically has a head injury. Cindy Stone. Her. Right. how much does that say that I've forgotten that Mia wasn't the first victim? Like, obviously she's not. But Cindy has been completely wiped from my mind, mostly because of the association with Larry. And at that same time, walking by chance directly behind Miss Green, was the defendant, Mr. Sosuke Natsume. Well, I never. It appeared to Mr. Natsume that the woman just simply collapsed on the floor. In the dark of the fog, he didn't see the knife falling on her from above. And from the other direction, the constable and his wife saw no one but the victim and her apparent attacker. So there never was a real culprit to run from the scene in the first place. No, this was nothing more than a series of unlikely events that culminated in an unfortunate accident. And that is the real truth behind this case. Yeah, because Turnabout Big Top technically has a head injury, but it's in the past before the actual murder. Case for that game is long, but that's not a head injury. I don't think any of the cases in Justice for All, or Trials and Tribulations rather, are head injuries. I can't remember if there's any head injuries in the Investigations games. And there really hasn't been any, outside of maybe whacks every now and then, across the 3DS games. Yeah. And a very toxic relationship is what caused this person's injury. You know, if anything, barring the first half of the final case in Justice, in Spirits of Justice, where we're doing the civil suit, technically the most wholesome Ace Attorney case in that regard, in that there's no dead body yet. Well, Mr. and Mrs. Garadeb?
The very first time you showed me that knife, I had my suspicions. I wondered if perhaps it might have been something like that.
There, old bean.
Poor Mrs. Garadeb.
Of course, I never meant for anything of the sort to happen, but it was all my fault, wasn't it? I take full responsibility. I let my anger get the better of me. I threw that book, and I threw the knife as well.
All right, Shady Smith got bonked. Man, I'm just forgetting how a lot of people die in this series, aren't I? Unless it's a direct gunshot. Or a stabbing to usually the chest. Investigations 2, Case 4 comes to mind.
John, dear.
It's alright, I know.
I'm ever so sorry. Truly. I'm sorry!
Did he catch her? Aww. Oh, you're gonna throw your back out doing that, man. Lift with your leg. Oh. Lord Van Zeeks, what news of Mrs. Garadeb? She's been taken to the infirmary. It would appear that today's events had left her in an especially flustered state. However, I believe she will recover in due course. There is no cause for concern. Yes, unbeknownst to themselves, they caused what could have easily been a terrible tragedy. They shall have to prepare themselves for the consequences of their actions. There is some good news, however, my lord. I have just word from the hospital where the victim is being treated. Her condition is improving steadily, and the doctor believes she'll regain consciousness soon. It's strange. We've been talking about the victim all this time, but we've never once met her. How wonderful. The woman's out of danger, it seems. Yeah, that is good news. So, Mr. Sosuke Natsume. Yes. On behalf of my fellow countrymen, I would like to take this opportunity to beg your pardon, sir. You came from your distant eastern homeland to study our great British culture. and have been repaid with immeasurable unkindness. Please, accept our heartfelt apologies. No, it's me who should be begging your pardon.
Oh, no, Mr. Natsume.
That evening when the young woman just collapsed in the pavement before my eyes, I jumped to the wrong conclusion again in my confusion. What conclusion, sir? I was sure that the woman was dead.
Yes, Constable Beat said the same thing, didn't he? He thought she had been killed too. I suppose she must have looked completely lifeless.
It's been about a year since I arrived in Great Britain now. I still can't get used to life here. I can't relax. I'm sure there are evil spirits lurking in the fog like they're haunting me.
Poor Soseki-san. His imagination really has gotten the better of him. I think about the mask-to-mask case, and I think of two things. That penguin-looking motherfucker who is the actual murderer, and the fact that Adrian Andrews returned from it and she's still cute, and that mask-to-mask has one hell of a loving relationship. That's technically three things, but I'm not a math person. Shush. Someone's fucking what? Man, I'm just forgetting about all the fucking head wounds, aren't I? Oh, man, and at least one of you was around for a lot of those, because... Actually, wait, no, because I don't think the first of you, Kaito and Sai, I think the first of you showed up early investigations? And then the other one showed up investigations too, or were you both investigations too? Yeah, I'm thinking Sai might just be looking at the cases and laughing at the fact of how wrong I am. Look, it's been a long year. We're almost done with these games, technically. Yes, poor man.
So what had happened? I thought the young woman had been taken by the fog spirits. I never should have dropped my books like that and run away. I should have called for help, for a doctor, for the police!
First stream's investigations too. Yeah, because you showed up, I think you showed up in particular during case 2, when we're in the prison. And I think you were at the very end of the trilogy, yeah. I think you were during the final case. If you weren't during... What the fuck is the name of the last case in Trials and Tribulations? Turnabout for Tomorrow, I think. You were at least, like, very early Investigations 1, because I did that immediately after, like, within a week. And you were there for most of that game, I know for a fact.
Instead, I've managed to create a rift in the relationship of trust between our two empires.
It's nearly been a year since then, holy shit. Because that was, I think Investigations 1 I started late December?
Instead, I've managed to create a rift in the relationship of trust between our two empires. And for that, I'm truly sorry. One could indeed say that some sort of mischievous spirit has been at work here, I think, when they created a chain of unfortunate mishaps. We were befooled by the spirit and led to false conclusions.
The camera guy? Oh, yeah, him.
But thanks to Lord Van Zeeks and our young lawyer here from the east, that chain has now been broken and the spirit exorcised. I heartily commend you both.
Oh!
Now then, ladies and gentlemen of the jury. Yes, my lord. In concluding this trial, I must ask one last time for your decisions regarding the defendant's culpability. Are you ready to present your findings to the court?
As the foreman of this jury, I can assure we found a fair and just conclusion. I do declare the truth can be extremely cruel at times. Well, I didn't suspect the woman next to me, that's for sure.
Sit again for the old bean while she's out of action, you know. But I know what her decision would be. Does this mean I'll finally be able to get out of here and start work? Well, it's about time. I say I'll have a corker of a story to tell the grandchildren when I get home, won't I? Very well, ladies and gentlemen of the jury. I hereby demand your final decisions. Mr. Foreman.
Not guilty.
Not guilty.
Not guilty.
Not guilty.
Not guilty.
Not guilty.
Why does it explode when it goes all the way down? Fuck, Candace was fucking... I think what we're learning here is unless it's a super, super major one, and even then, in the case of me, I forgot, I don't remember the murder methods. I just remember... I don't even remember who gets killed. I just remember how they did it. Damn. Not guilty. And finally, Mr. Natsume. Oh, yes, my lord. You are now a free man once more. It is my hope that you will continue to further your education in British culture. And may you never again be brought before me. Oh, yes, sir. Of course. All my life, I swear I'll never set foot in the quorum again. I'm transported to tears. I will laugh if because of that line specifically, for one of the probably not extraordinarily focused main story cases in the second game, he's the defendant. Thank you, counsels. Court is adjourned. Because I'm assuming the second one's going to follow a formula relatively close to this one in that it's more so kinetic than the other ones have been, almost as much as Trials and Tribulations. Just... you gotta get the break case in, you know what I mean? Oh, locum! Wait, you? You mean me? Of course! There's another locum here! Is there even one? Compared to the original locum student, Mr. Naruhodo Esquire, your name has become rather short, hasn't it? What's wrong with just using my actual name? Found another one. Oh no. Oh, at last I'm free! I'm free! Joyous, joyful, joyous, jubilant, jubilation! Heady, hearty, happiness, hurrah! Fucking... And technically, Kazuma was a strike to the head too. Albeit to the neck. Like the chin, but that's a head injury. Oh, I am pleased. Mr. Natsume is delighted. Would it be so hard to just say that then? Locum, you did it! You saved me from the brink! Well, what happened to the poor woman who was in no way your fault after all? I'm just glad everyone can see that now. No, not that! Lovely, loyal, locum lawyer! Yes? I mean, as I said before, I've just never gotten used to life here in Great Britain. Every time I look over my shoulder, I see foreigners. I see towering brick buildings. And from high up windows, I see them looking down on me, laughing. Look at that little hunchback. Oh dear, I'm sure it's all in your head, Mr. Natsume. But... today, you, locum lawyer, gave my gloom the boots. You stood firm behind that baronial bench before all those babbling British.
Yeah, holy shit, you were about right on the money for that. Archie. Sai, you're burying me under these head injuries. Come on.
You battled to the bitter end, laying bare the baffling truth. And when I beheld the blinding fireworks among the beams of Bailey's roof, I bellowed, "Behold the best barrister ever born!"
Well, that's very flattering, and we're very pleased for you.
This has given me a wonderful anecdote to recount to my friends back in Japan.
An anecdote? Is that what's to become all my hard work? Ah, there you are, my dear fellows. I apologize for keeping you waiting. I arose late this morning. Oh, Mr. Sholmes, what a pleasure to see you. I see I'm here not a moment too soon. A disaster has been averted, I'm glad to say. Oh. The trial shall begin presently, Mr. Anarhodo, and I wish you the very best of luck. It's just finished. What? No, then my haste was in vain.
Ah! It's you! Herlock Sholmes!
Oh, have we met, sir? This is Mr. Natsume, the man you had arrested, Mr. Sholmes. Ah, I see. I failed to recognize you at first. Our previous encounters have taken place in the gloom, either of your bleak lodgings or of that of the prison cell. I simply couldn't place the curious face in the lights. Charming.
This is all your fault, Herlock Sholmes. You're the reason I had to go through this terrible ordeal. I'm going to give you a piece of my mind.
My apologies, sir, but I assure you, I have placed you now. You're the fellow who abandoned that poor young lady and ran off, are you not? Had she been taken to a hospital more urgently, I feel perhaps she would have regained consciousness by now.
Oh.
But it was unavoidable, I'm sure. We are but human after all. Anyone would have been shaken by such an experience.
I do feel very badly about how I behaved.
Well, never mind. Now then, what was it you wanted to say to me, sir?
Nothing.
Oh, priceless. Oh, I'm sorry, really, but that was quite priceless. Poor Sasaki-san. Still, on the bright side, you've had an extremely entertaining experience without paying a penny. And it would seem you were not even found guilty.
But there is no bright side.
Whatever do you mean, Mr. Natsume?
Even after this, I'm still cursed by the spirits and now by the Reaper.
Ah, Lord Van Zeeks.
I haven't forgotten, you know, what facing that man in court means. If you're found not guilty, you're still doomed.
Oh, I know who we're raiding in about 50 minutes when we're done. It'll be alright, Mr. Natsume. If the Reaper appears trying to make trouble, I'll protect you. Hiya! Oh! With the perfectly executed Susato takedown.
Much as I like being turned on my head, a bit of warning might be nice next time, Mr. Sato.
So, Mr. Natsume, what do you intend to do now? You mentioned something about recounting your experiences to your friends back in Japan?
Yes, I intend to return to my homeland soon.
Oh,
It has already been a year since I arrived here in Great Britain. I've visited universities, libraries, bookshops. I've been honored with the tutelage of professors. I've learned so much about the wealth of literature here and the city it has shaped. And I've come to realize that it is my calling to sail home and tell my fellow countrymen about it.
that's very touching, Mr. Natsume. Oh, or in perhaps less veiled terms, you wish to withdraw halfway around the world to escape the terror of the Reaper's curse?
That's not it at all! Mostly, the more I learn of literature, the more this strange feeling claws in my insides. I feel compelled to return to my roots and attempt to pen a work of my own.
Oh, I see. A work of literature by Soseki-san. It could be an interesting read. And what about Mr. Sato and yourself, Mr. Naruhodo? Sorry, what about us? Will you return to Japan alongside your mustached compatriot? Why would we? A week has not yet passed since we arrived in London. And only now does it feel like as if we finally found our feet. And you are accommodated in a hotel at present, are you not? That's right, but we need to find lodgings before it bankrupts us. I've calculated we can only afford another 10 nights before our entire budget is exhausted.
Well then, you can take my lodgings.
Oh, the windowless room?
Ah, but what it lacks in windows, it more than makes up for with the floor, the ceiling, and walls.
Great.
And of course, I'd be happy to leave behind the accursed evil spirit.
Oh, my evil spirit.
Oh yes, it tries to suffocate you while you sleep. It's an infallible wake-up call.
Well, think about it if that's alright. It's the fucking cat, isn't it? Because of what my cat does every now and then to try and wake me up. Sometimes, especially when I'm home alone, I don't put her in her room. When I'm going to bed, I just leave the door open and she wanders the house at night. To wake me up, she will, at first, just walk into my room and meow up at me. Then, she will stand on her high legs and paw at the top of my bed being like, hey, hey, hey. And then, if that doesn't work, she'll jump up and do whatever she can while up there to try and get me out of bed. Well, think about it, if that's alright. Perhaps I can offer a more welcome alternative. Would you consider taking lodgings with me? Really? Well, a vacancy has conveniently presented itself, though it is up in the attic, I might add. Are you sure it isn't just just a storage loft? I spoke with the landlady this very morning on the matter of price, and Iris is cleaning the room as we speak. You must come at once. I presume you have no luggage to speak of. Oh, this is simply wonderful! What an honor to be invited to take lodgings in the Great Detective's office's attic! I'm too overcome for words. So, suggesting we look elsewhere is out then. Then it's settled. Iris will prepare a welcome dinner this evening. And you must come too, Mr. Natsume. I insist.
I don't know what to say, but thank you, and yes.
I really hope you don't have a food allergy. Wonderful. Then I'll go and complete the paperwork for your formal release, Mr. Natsume. It shan't take long. Somebody's happy.
Locum, I knew you wouldn't let me down. I'm truly delighted to have met you here in London.
Likewise, Mr. Natsume. It's been a privilege meeting you two. It's a shame that we're gonna have to say goodbye so soon.
Well, I've come to realize that I belong in Japan. But Locum, we'll meet again one day. Probably in the breather case of the sequel.
Yeah, I'm sure. And hopefully by then, I'll be a successful lawyer.
Hopefully by then, I'll be a successful author.
Well, my dear fellow, our carriage appears to have arrived. Shall we go, Mr. Naruhodo? Yes, Mr. Sholmes. I've little doubt Mr. Natsume will be released in the time for dinner this evening. And so, with Soseki-san's innocence successfully established, we rode with Mr. Sholmes to what was to become our new home, 221B Baker Street.
Not a bad little place. Actually reminds me a lot of Kiki's delivery service. It's got a boiler, windows, a shovel. So this is to be our new office. Yes. Our office. I'd rather like the sound of that. Me too. It's simply too wonderful, isn't it? I hope you can see this, Cosmo. It's only a small step. But I'd like to think we're getting a little closer to your dream now. So, my dear fellows, do you like the place? What the, huh? Your hair is so poofy. Ah, Mr. Sholmes. Yes. Thank you so much. It's a delightful room, Mr. Sholmes. I simply adore it. Good. I'm pleased to hear it. Iris and I are delighted to welcome you. I hope everyone's hungry. It's nearly time for dinner. We'll eat as soon as Mr. Natsume arrives. We have a lot to celebrate. Iris, you must let me help you. All right then, Susie. You can be in charge of the salad. Splendid. So, Mr. Naruhodo, how does it feel? Oh shit, accidentally pressed the thing. Oh, shit, pressed things twice. To have your own office in the capital. It's very exciting, actually. I can't help wondering what adventure awaits us. Those were precisely my sentiments when I first established my office at these premises. Until I discovered the dark truth about the city of London, that is. Sorry? London is a glorious place, full of wonder, opportunity, prosperity, and mirth. But the brightest of lights casts the darkest of shadows. Shadows? What do you mean? Well, I believe you're well aware of the murkiness that lies behind London's facade already. So, once again, Mr. Naruhodo, welcome to London. Of course, at the time, I had no idea the significance of those words Mr. Sholmes so casually spoke. But it wasn't long before my turn came to lift the facade and see the true depth of the murk that lay behind it. Oh boy. Time to start the final case. And apparently one hell of a long one, but that said, we're only going to get about 40 minutes of it in. Oh no. Oh no, the Hound of Baskervilles? That's not just a name you drop. That's a fucking Sherlock Holmes book. Oh no, this is gonna be intense. The Adventure of the Unspeakable Story. A hound it was, but not such a hound as any mortal has ever seen. Its eyes glowed with smoldering glare. The whole of its oxidized body was outlined in white-hot flames.
It's coming! Sholmes's cry pierced through the thick wall of fog around us. Wisps of vapor flowed over the pistol as I cocked it, and I waited, breathlessly, in the stillness. The silence lasted for what seemed an eternity, until, at last, it appeared. From the shadows of the cloud, an enormous beast sprang out upon us. A hound it was, but not such a hound as any mortal has ever seen. Its eyes glowed with a smoldering glare. The whole of its ox-sized body was outlined in white-hot flames. Its rumbling pant and hideous howl, so terrified was I that I began to tremble with fear. Look well, Wilson, Sholmes declared, gazing upon the mystical beast. For this is the diabolical Hound of the Baskervilles.
Our first 2 months in London passed by in a flash. And at this concerning courtroom experience we were first thrown into on the day we arrived in the country, and Soseki-san's terrible ordeal that had followed closely behind, we had emerged victorious. However, there then came an abrupt end to our opportunities to appear in court, which was hardly surprising, of course, since I was nothing more than an amateur, an unknown student of the law from a faraway land. So life in our little office was very quiet. That is, until it was shattered one day by that fateful telegram. Well, they've customized it nice and cozy. That morning, I was woken by the unreserved knocking on the door by a telegram boy. After he'd gone, Susato-san's behavior became obviously strange. Susato-san? Yes! Is it time to leave for court already? Let me see, what case is it today? I don't think I'm scheduled to defend anyone at the moment. Am I? Oh, no, of course not. How silly of me. But I think Iris said she would make us breakfast this morning. So, shall we go down to Mr. Sholm's suite? Yes. Iris makes the most delicious breakfast food. She does, doesn't she? And once our bellies are full, we can leave for court in the fighting fit form. Let me see, what case is it today? Here we go again. Examine the shovel, alrighty. That spade has been in here since we started renting the place. Oh, that's not a spade, Mr. Naruhodo. It's a shovel. No, shovels are for digging. That's for scooping up loose material. It's a spade. No, spades are for digging. That's for scooping up loose material. It's a shovel. I don't want to dig a hole for myself, so let's leave it. Set of matcha making. So this is the tea set that Susato-san brought with her from Japan. Let's hope she hasn't noticed me slipping sugar and milk into my cup when she makes it. It's just so bitter! Tea is a drink to be enjoyed, Mr. Naruhodo. You really don't have to force yourself to drink it, you know. I don't like to see you screw up your face so. She knows! Run! Yeah, that is kind of a tradition, isn't it? It's spring at last, and the weather is warmer now, but I love the smell of the fire and the steam rising from the kettle. Oh, would you like some tea, Naruhodo-san? Thank you, Susato-san, but I'm alright for now. With the green tea Susato-san makes me from time to time, and Iris' unique herbal infusions, this place is paradise for a true tea lover. Green tea is a wonderful accompaniment to British tea cakes, don't you think? We've only been in here in London for about 2 months, and my desk is starting to look a little messy already. You can tidy up once in a while. Susato-san, I always say, making a mess is the smallest sacrifice to pay for being able to further your studies. And time spent tidying up is time you can't devote to the same cause. And time spent on ridiculous arguments is time that could be better spent on some simple housework. She wins. But I'm supposed to be the lawyer here. I love tea. I'll drink certain green teas, like I genuinely like genmaicha, matcha, and all that. There was this one tea I used to be able to find at a local Asian supermarket that was like cherry blossom flavored, but I think that brand is either not available here in the States anymore or was shut down because I've never been able to find it again, and it sucks because it was delicious. Ah, the Daruma doll I brought with me is home. Still with only one eye colored in. I said I'd color in the other eye once I won my first court case here in Britain, but you have won, haven't you? Twice, in fact. Because I feel as though I'm still lacking as a lawyer. I'll tell you what, why don't you color the other eye in once you think I'm a proper, fully fledged lawyer? If you insist.
Ah, this must be the telegram. Let's see. Ah! No, you mustn't look at that. Not under any circumstances. Alright, I won't. I'm sorry, Naruhodo-san, but you can be very mischievous at times. Then put the telegram away if you don't want people looking at it. We were rather lucky to find that old aquarium left behind here. The prawns we put in are doing rather well, and the anemones too. It's a wonderful invention, isn't it? Like a seed behind glass inside your room. Another example of Great Britain's greatness. Having to clean it out and change the water isn't so great, though, is it? Do you know, I've never seen you inside your room there, Susato-san. Never even peeped inside. I should think so, too. A young maiden's private chamber is a place for bittersweet secrets, you know.
Whatever you say, young maiden. That looks like everything I can investigate. So, what was it about? The telegram that was delivered this morning. I mean...
Oh, a telegram? I don't know what you're talking about.
You're hiding something. What is it?
Sorry, but you're not going to get away with that. Well, I didn't think I would.
Took a traditional Japanese history class in college, and professor made traditional tea for us? Hell yeah. That sounds pretty fucking fun, honestly. I didn't take many, like, super fun... Well, I took fun courses in college, because obviously, graphic design... Technically, there's fun to be had in that for me, because I enjoy that high graphic designer. But, like, the most fun side class I took... I didn't really take any... Oh, actually, no, mythology. I loved my mythology course. Some really fucking difficult writing, but some of the most fun I've ever had. And I'm not usually a fan of writing, either. Well, I like writing, but I don't like writing. Well, I've already said that.
Actually, don't give it a moment's thought. It's nothing. Nothing interesting. Boring, in fact. It was just a boring old telegram. That's 3 times now she's tried and failed to convince me it was nothing. I promise that I'll tell you about it at some point.
Alright, I understand. Creative writing minor? Hell yeah. Writing is one of those things that I enjoy, but it's just beyond me, both in terms of both of the adjectives and shit, but also I'm not sure if you can tell based off how I read or how I speak. My sense of grammar is sometimes far from the good. I suppose Soseki-san will have arrived back in Japan by now, won't he? Yes, I should think so. He left immediately after that terrible ordeal. Which would mean he should have completed the voyage already, or just be a few days away. A fortnight ago, we had that very long telegram from him, do you remember? Complaining of seasickness? But by and large, it seems the voyage has been going well. I wonder if he's on the Buria. Is something wrong, Naruhodo-san? I was just wondering, what might have become of Soseki-san had he stayed in London, that's all. You mean as regards Lord Van Zeeks, the Reaper? Yeah, I can't help wondering if seasickness would have paled into insignificance in that case. What is it they say? That no one who stands in the dock can be saved from the Reaper? Right? Like the way that nightmarish trial ended on the very day we arrived in London. Even 2 months on, the cause of that dreadful fire is still a mystery. Yeah, but at least Soseki-san is safely out of the country now. Presumably, that means that the Curse of the Reaper can only take effect within the confines of the city of London, perhaps? Even if that's the case, it's a little comfort. I have a terrible sense of foreboding. If the legend of the Reaper is to be believed, it would mean that he wields the Sword of Justice himself. Come to think of it, I wonder what he's been up to these past 2 months. Surely not wielding that sword against more acquitted defendants. No, I don't think so. Apparently, Lord Van Zeeks hasn't appeared in court once since our last encounter. Oh? Yeah, since Soseki-san's trial, he's withdrawn from judicial service again, it seems. Really? Just like before, when he wasn't seen in court for all those several years. So it's just been me who's had to face him in his recent spades at trial, then. Ugh, just my luck. I wonder if luck doesn't come into it. Sorry? What was that? Oh, nothing. Never mind. I don't think it's nothing, but oh well. To the Shulm suite. Morning, Runo. Morning, Susie. Oh yeah, Sherlock Holmes does play the fucking violin, doesn't he? Good morning, Iris. Iris. What is it, Runo? What is that terrible noise? It sounds like a cat being strangled. Yeah, you noticed that, did ya? Hurley is in the best form this morning, it seems. Hello. Oh no, we'll hurt you. Hello, Mr. Shulms. Where's the giant thing that was on that desk before? Good morning. A good morning to die, perhaps. Has something happened, Mr. Shulms? You look miserable, and the way you were playing the violin before... My analytical mind is dead. Music is dead. The world is dead. Damn this blanched existence. Let the hydration flow. Thank you, Bolt. That's all of it, my dear fellow. Nothing of consequence. I'm afraid I don't understand. Well, Iris, isn't it time we ate? Some dry toast and insipid coffee for me, if it's not too much trouble. Kitty! Kitty! That's the one from the apartment. Oh, look, it's Wagahai. Good morning, boy. I love him. That must be some sort of tiny door for cats to use. But how did it get there? Well then, everyone, time for breakfast. Oh, wonderful. Let me help you, Iris. Ugh, it would indeed be a fine day to die. Yeah, he was just born after the year 1985. We all feel that mood. I knew something looked different. Something's missing from Mr. Shulm's desk. You alright, buddy? You miss your machine. You seem to be very unhappy this morning, Mr. Shulms. What's happened? It used to be the case that in my hands, this violin sung like the dawn chorus. Its melosonant tones would make the flowers bloom. It would? But now, the muses are unamused with me. The goddesses of music have thrown me over. Whatever do you mean, Mr. Sholmes? For hours I've bowed. For days even. Through the night I have endeavored to no avail. That sound, my tone, is lost. That brilliant, clear, unwavering tone. Gone forever! No more recitals of unbridled emotion. Well, you haven't been practicing much lately, have you, Turley? Don't worry, I'm sure I'll come back to you in time. Heed my words, Mr. Naruhodo. The goddesses of the arts are fickle. Creatives, rise up. Cry it out for the homie. One day they bestow genius on a man, the next they unmercifully withdraw it. Oh dear. Ugh, why is this happening to me? If they take the turn I have for the violin from me, what is left, for pity's sake? What is left? Deduction perhaps? Isn't that what you're known for? Mr. Sholmes, I don't like to pry, but... your desk looks rather empty today. Well done, Mr. Sato. Your observation skills do you credits. Oh, no, Mr. Sholmes, they pale in insignificance when compared to yours. You'd struggle not to notice, wouldn't you? You mean Hurley's great analytoscope? That's at Windibanks now. Sorry, it's at Windy? It's at a Windy Bank? No, Windibanks. The pawnbrokery. What? You mean you pawned that enormous machine of yours? It has some considerable value, you see. It's quite undeservingly. But isn't it a very important machine for your work? I do wish you had consulted us if your situation had become so desperate. I would have gladly passed what little income I have to you. Dear madam, things are far from desperate. But the pawnbroker has your wonderful machine. How can it be anything but desperate? Making use of a pawnbroker is quite ordinary here in London, I assure you. Is it? It doesn't sound ordinary at all. It would seem that neither of you truly understand how pawnbroking works. Oh, what's to understand exactly? You got something from them, didn't you? What did you mean when you said we didn't fully understand how pawnbroking works? To the dead people of London, pawnbrokeries are akin to banks. Banks? On Mondays, merchants relinquish their finest jackets and trappings to the pawnbroker of choice. With the money they receive in return, they are able to trade happily through the week. And then on Saturdays, they go to recover their things using the money they've earned. I had no idea. This has been a fascinating lesson for us. Everyone does it, you see, especially people in the inner London. And should they have money to spare, they would purchase another fine jacket. Not to wear, obviously, but to pawn, should the need arise. Oh, how ingenious. Sir, we have something that's getting in the way. We leave it at Windibanks, you see. A pawnbrokery can be thought of as an extremely secure vault. Who would have thought that even pawnbrokers are different here in Great Britain? Of course, you have to watch Hurley with it. Sometimes he pawns things he really shouldn't. Don't you, Hurley? What does it matter? The world is dead to me now. Gotcha. Mr. Natsume's cat seems to have settled into his new home, then. Oh, yes, and I've become very attached to little Waggy. It would appear his previous owner is completely forgotten to him. Cats are unfeeling creatures. Their mews as empty as the hearts of the muses. I will rip your own goddamn heart out, motherfucker. Take that back.
If Mr. Natsume had no intention of taking Waggy back to Japan, I wonder why he kept him in the first place.
I expect he would have taken him if he could. But pets are strictly forbidden aboard steamships in our experience.
And for good reason. Terrible things can happen if the rules of passage are not obeyed. Well, I don't mind, because Waggy is adorable.
Yeah, he really is. Oh, yeah, what about the door? I don't remember seeing that tiny thing in the main door before. Where did that come from?
Oh, you notice? You are observant, Runo. Look at this. It's my latest invention.
What? What is that?
I call it the Cat Flap-O-Mat. Gosh, a machine for making doors just for cats? That's right. It can make a cat flap for a little furry friend like Waggy in seconds. And it can do it in any door at all, no matter what it's made of. It's very powerful, you see.
Wouldn't it have been quicker just to make the cat flap rather than making a machine to make the cat flap?
Well, yes, maybe, but now I can make cat flaps anywhere I like. Oh, I think it's wonderful. You must make one for us in the door of our office upstairs, Iris.
She really knows how to come with unconventional inventions, this girl.
Oh, what was that?
Wagahai? What the fuck just happened? What was that?
Oh, no. Wagahai's tangled up in your violin. I think he thinks it's a toy.
No! What's he doing to it?
Oh, dear, Mr. Shelm's precious violin.
Why should I care?
What?
I shouldn't be surprised. If the cat is more accomplished musician than I am now.
Mr. Shelms really is in poor spirits, isn't he? Mr. Shelms really is in poor...
Oh, I just said that. Sorry. I was distracted by a DM.
Well, anyway, I'll put it back where it lives, shall I, Hurley?
Out of the cat's reach, if possible. Maybe we should assess the damage. No. Where is it? Oh, there's a fucking huge-ass room here. Crocheting a little Zack Fair and you're having fun time trying to figure out how to do his little hair spikes. You're doing a early Crisis Core Zack or late Crisis Core where his hair's a little longer? So this is the violin, is it? It's a Stradivarius, one of the finest violins in the world, made by the renowned Italian luthier Antonio Stradivari. Oh, I see. It doesn't really look like anything special to me. I happened upon it in the dust, languishing in a pawn shop down a nondescript back alley. The broker had no idea its value, so I was able to purchase it for a mere 55 shilling. How honorable of you! And until today, it has been my faithful companion every great Paganini-inspired performance I've made. I ask you, is there reason to live in a world devoid of music? To tolerate this blanched existence? No. There is none.
Mr. Sholmes.
What, dear madam, what?
My thoughts are preoccupied with fancies of release from this dull routine. Well, it's about the violin. It looks different than normal, don't you think? Hmm? What do you mean, Mr. Sato? Oh, Susie's right. Yeah, the tone of the wood's completely different. And that's not all. There's no I'm sure there was no crack here before. Wait, it's not even the right size, is it? Is it a fucking viola? What's this? I'm terribly sorry to have to tell you this, Mr. Sholmes, but that instrument isn't a violin at all. Then what? I believe it's an entirely different instrument called a viola. Late crisis core. Nice, nice. I love that hairstyle on him. What? Oh, Mr. Sholmes, you're right. You're right. You are quite right. This isn't my faithful Stradivarius. So what, pray, is this piece of stringed flotsam? Not your faithful performing partner, then. Ah, I see what must have happened. You do, Iris? This is just a simple mix-up. It sounds like Iris might be able to tell us exactly what's happened if we asked her. What did you mean by a mix-up, Iris? Well, you see, this viola, I mean, was at Winterbanks until last week. At the pawnbrokers? Not Mr. Sholmes' beloved musical partner. There is a proverb from the East, with which you are no doubt familiar, my dear fellows. Always let the beloved child travel. Yes, indeed. So you sent your beloved violin to the pawnbrokers and hoped that it would experience personal growth? Oh, what a wonderful idea. Last week, I pawned my great analytoscope in order to release my precious instrument. But it would appear Mr. Winterbank mistakenly furnished me with this tawdry fiddle instead. But my ears cannot be deceived by the hollow timbre of this piece of timber. No, but your every sense was deceived by the fact that it had just had strings. Pshaw! A fine statement of affairs, that is. And why I always say to Mr. Naruhodo, never trust a pawnbroker, they'll try to fiddle you every time. But earlier you told us that you could think of a pawnbrokery as an extremely secure vault. Come, Mr. Naruhodo. Dilly-dallying will get you nowhere. Sorry? Crunching your toast with that vacant aspect. Pressing your coffee so obtusely. Are you not a little embarrassed by your own conduct, considering the urgency with which we are faced? We must visit Mr. Winterbank's brokery at once. Isn't that right, Mr. Sholmes? Precisely, Mr. Sato, without a moment's delay. But I haven't finished my bacon and eggs. My dear fellow, surely you do not still intend to crunch your bacon with an increasingly vacant aspect, to press your egg ever so obtusely? All right, say no more, let's go then. Don't worry, Bruno, I'll be happy to heat it up for you later. Oh, thank you, Iris. As if it happens, I'm rather curious to see what a British pawnbroker's looks like. Alright, I know it's a little bit early, but about 10 minutes early, but I think I'm going to call it there. Because I have been holding in the urge to boot up Genshin for a while. And I think an hour is a good point to end off at, an hour 10. Plus we finished that case, and that's the more important thing. So that is where we are... Oh, that's me muting me. That's where we're going to end off for the night. Well, thank y'all for coming by. Cythera, Kites, and Volt, anyone else who's lurking and not chatting, thanks for stopping by. Every view matters when you're this small of a streamer. Tonight, we are going to be... I originally said I wasn't gonna raid anyone, but I didn't know Iggy was gonna stream tonight, and I haven't raided her in a while. She's such a good friend. With that said, I recommend whatever time zone you're in, the moment it hits midnight, get off of Twitch, because support that protest, people. Don't cross that picket line. Don't yell at people who aren't, because it might be their only income, but I recommend it. You know what I mean? Otherwise, have a great night. Take care. I'll see you guys Thursday night for more of this. See you guys then.